Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. My man Trevor Baptiste is joining me today. We're going over the Big East 2021 preseason for face-off units. Tuna, how we feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. Good to be out here on this. What is this? The YouTube. I'm out on the YouTube right now.
He's right. He's on it.
Here.
Look at that. Yeah, so the Big East, we've gone over Big Ten and ACC. The Big East has a lot of talent, but I feel like it's more pushed towards one or two teams. It's not as easily as, like when ACC, we looked at ACC, we're like, whoa, like there are so many thoroughbreds all over these depth charts. We don't know who's going to take the cake on this. Whereas the Big East, there are some proven studs, and there's other guys who I thought were off to hot starts last year before the season got cut short. But then also we have to kind of look at the rule change. So, let's get what are your thoughts on the Big East as a conference overall with face-off talent right now?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you said, the Big East definitely has. Obviously, I'm going to talk about Denver and how good they are, but across the board. They've made a lot of strong moves and increase the talent on the face-off X, especially since I played there. I really feel like now you got a lot of tough matchups in the Big East, which traditionally didn't really happen. So it's just
Yeah.
cool to see. I think the rule change is definitely gonna shake things up because everybody's a little bit new to it. So. But I think for the most part, no, they're trending in the right direction, which is great to see.
Yeah. So if we look at it real quick, the 2020 leaders in the Big East last year, Riley from Georgetown, he was at 69% to start off. Stavakis came out, had a very good rookie campaign. Unfortunately, that got cut short, but he was a proven guy at 62% coming in as a rook, which is we haven't seen anybody come in as a rook and do that since my man Trev. So. So that's pretty impressive. But when you look at Georgetown, they have Riley, Conestoga guy. He was their primary faceoff man. He's taken over 500 draws already in his career.
Wow.
So there's a guy. They also have Cade Haverly from Ridley. Alex Bean from St. Louis has battled through injuries his whole career. But when you look at Georgetown and Riley getting the majority of the reps, I think, they're in pretty good hands. He's a young buck, but he's also he's going through the tread on those tires pretty quick with 500 reps already.
Right. Yeah. And I think like you talk about 500 reps, that's something that a lot of face-off guys don't get the opportunity to have that experience in college at any point, So
yeah.
I think it back to like when I played and, going into my junior year, sophomore year, already taking 300 to 400, 500 reps. Not only does it just help you practice because you're doing it so much, but you're also just ready for every situation. You're ready. You gone against, the guy who's got fast hands. You got against the really strong athletic guy who's just going to body you up. And you had to figure it out through all those reps. So there's a lot to say about experience, especially on the face-off X.
Yeah, and it is interesting too, because if it was any other year, I would say, wow, a guy with 500 reps under his belt who's 69%, the positive of that is experience. Like you said, he's ready to roll, and he also believes he's the guy, so that you're not looking over your shoulder, which can be very frustrating for a face-off guy. The negative, though, especially when knee-down face-offs, was, that beats you up. Right shoulder, right wrist, your knee, being on one knee throws everything out of whack. Now with standing neutral grip, I feel like the more reps, the better now, because the array of moves is way more important than the speed of your hands. So your ability to test out different moves against a variety of different people, I feel like can make you a better face-off guy. So if you have taken this guy, as far as Riley goes, 500 reps in his career, that's all good, but maybe now it doesn't mean anything because as SNG is very low impact.
Right. No. Yeah. No. 100%. And I think that's definitely a huge positive about the rule change. And I mean, you and I have felt it. You and I have felt it in our career. Yeah. Those knee down face offs that you feel like you just ran a marathon after maybe 3 of them.
So, yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
And what's funny is we didn't realize how rough until we took reps this whole summer and fall just going SNG, and we're like, dude, these lucky kids, man. They're gonna get to play till they're 80.
Right.
It's crazy.
You know.
So now let's go. Let's go to Providence. They have the Coach Francis effect, and Matt Francis is a high-end face-off coach in Division One. So he's got some guys to work with. When I look at this roster, RJ Romeo is a tall, strong athlete. I know he has the hand speed. The question is whether he's going to be able to transition to counters. And I feel like the taller guys have a massive advantage if they're willing to work on those transitional counters. And they have Begley, who's a freshman from Philly, and Alex Ward, who was an elite recruit. He's dealt with some injuries, so he's got some studs that he can work with talent-wise. But how do you, if you were Coach Francis and you have three guys who none of them have proven themselves to be the stud yet, how do you finagle that depth chart coming out of the gates without knowing what S&G looks like right now?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a tough position for a coach to be in. And I think that hopefully, all three of these guys are, committing to it and taking time to take a S&G approach to face-offs. If they're kind of all trying to do the knee down type thing in standing neutral grip, then they're all going to face off the same. And then it's just going to be about, all right, well, who got the ground ball or which one of our wing guys, was it black or white, that came up with the ball at the end, rather than really challenging their skills and honing it in, and then kind of making a choice from that overall face-off, man, and what they can bring to the table in the game, and knowing what you're going to get, and knowing if you're going against Duke or if you're going against Denver or if you're going against, UVA or any other person, that they have the ability to, adapt to the matchup. So I would probably put a lot of emphasis on that as a coach. And then the other thing, say they all do that and they all do that well, that's going to be a tough position to be in. You and me have played on the same team, and I'm a firm believer of, try to go at least like 2 to 3 reps like we did at Worlds. One person takes a few, then have somebody else come in, rather than kind of just going 1 and 1, or just having one person take 5, then one person hop in and take 1, and then having another person hop in and take 5. The guy who's taking 1, it's like you're setting yourself up for failure. So there's a combination routine. I would say try to keep it in bulk increments. And then also you kind of get a 1-2 punch, maybe Alex Borg can come down with a little bit more athleticism, and, he's short, stockier guy. He can play low like that. And maybe Romeo can get it if he could be more tall and athletic, and that could be a nice counter,
Yeah. And I think the coaching staff, whenever we talk to coaches, we always try to reiterate, your goal is to make these face-off guys cheer for each other. Right. And when you and I were on the field, like, you and I knew our job when we played for Team USA. I knew that I was there as the vet. You were the guy, and my job was to support you on the field and then handle my business when I was out there. And the first thing that happened every time we ran off the field, whether we were winning 15-1 or we were down 8-7, is the other guy who didn't take the face off. As soon as you came off, it was like, okay, so they're moving this wing down on the thing. Like, the ref he's not letting the other guy get set. He's blowing it really quick. Like, we had a constant banter back and forth, and it helped us so much towards the end of every game in that World Championship, especially in the gold medal game. We were really grooving towards the end of every game because we had each other's back. I had the same experience with Chris Eck. Now, I've also been in situations where you can't tell how many reps you're getting. You don't know if you're going to play or not. And you're kind of in limbo. And I think that happens a lot in college. So what happens is you have 4 guys on the sideline that all want to win the game, but they all kind of hope the guy loses a face-off so they get their shot. Mm-hmm. So I think as a coach, your job is to make sure we know. Now, look, it's easy to say, okay, you should have your one starter, but not every team has it. Okay, so let's look at Providence. RJ is a taller, athletic. He's a tall, athletic veteran. Okay, if you can tell RJ, say, look, we need you to be as well-rounded as possible. You're going to be our starting guy. You go to Alex Borg or you go to Fegley and you say, we need you to be a definitive different style of face-off guy, because we can't just have a not as good version as our starter as the backup. right? You and I have been in games where you're pumping the starter, and off the bench cold, here comes the backup, and you just kind of wink at the attack, and you're like, this is going to be a home run. Because this poor guy doesn't know the cadence. He's cold. You're hot. That's why he's coming in. And you know that he's just not as good a version as the starter. If he came in and stood up or was a rake and counter guy, that would throw us for a loop. Didn't happen in my whole career. But that's what drives me crazy is when college coaches or any coach sends out just the guy who gets whipped in practice as the backup. What do you think's going to happen? TD starts the game 10 for 10. You're going to trot the backup out there, ruin his whole semester by having him go in for one. So yeah, we'll see what Coach Francis does with that.
Yeah.
When we moved down to Villanova, they have Dan Fisher. Dan Fisher is listed at 6 foot 240. Okay, Dan Fisher's a bad dude. All right,
big boy. He's a big boy.
Just to put that in, I'm 6'1", 225. All right, so I'm looking up at Fisher on the scale right now. That's a bad man.
Yeah.
Now I think Fisher could be a very good counter guy. I think he could, with his strength, I think he could rake and shovel people right off the ball. What do you think?
I agree 100%. 100%. When you talk about, that's that S&G and like, where do you use your strength, and when you're down in your stance, obviously you're standing, you're taking a different angle to the ball. You're not down on your knee. You can't really, drive and hit that ball and really utilize your strength as much in that moment, So you got to look, if you're looking at a guy that's 6 foot 240, I'm thinking there's not a lot of 6 foot 240 guys out here. So where can I use my 6 foot 240 to benefit me? Because nobody's got that,
Yeah.
So I think counters is that perfect avenue,
Yeah. And then there's Kopecky, who's 6'3", rangy, can rake. He came to our college combine. I was really impressed with how coachable he was, and everybody who works with him speaks highly of him. I think that's a great situation, right? You have a tall, rangy guy, you have a short built guy, and they could really confuse people if they were rotated correctly. And I think they could feed off each other.
Oh yeah, no question. And kind of like going back to what you were alluding to, like you and me playing together in USA and having that face-off unit, like they could easily tee people up for different things. Fisher coming in saying, I'm just gonna either reverse shovel or go for that shovel, and then so the opponent is probably thinking, all right, I got to keep that pressure down, fight through that initial shovel. And then Kopecky comes in and he just says, all right, I'm just going to rake right underneath him,
Boom. Yeah.
And then that's hard to go. That's something I would not wish on anybody.
Right? Right? Yeah. Think about when people are looking at the game a little different. Like for you and I, even though we were both on a knee, I have more of the slide under the ball, pro hop and rip approach, where you had the crush over the top and turn counterclockwise approach. So just that alone, you could tell, like when we were playing Canada, they were looking down the sideline, like which one of them's coming out, because we have to put the right matchup out there. And we're both very similar. That was a very minor difference, and that was enough in a world championship to make a team look down the sideline. Imagine what happens if you have two completely different styles. So now when we go to Marquette, they got T-Wash out there. Washington, he's a strong, athletic guy. But I have no idea if he's working on SNG or what his deal is right there. They have a rookie from Cherry Creek, Rios, and Luke Williams, actually. He's a redshirt fresh. He's actually the younger brother of Ben Williams. So the face-offs are in the family. I'm sure he's worked with Ben a little bit leading up to this. But how do you figure this kind of thing works out?
Yeah, Marquette love those blue collar Midwest boys. We know them so well out there. They got a great unit, man. And I've had the opportunity to work with Luke Rios a bunch when he was in high school out here in Colorado. and he came back over break. I got the opportunity to go against him a little bit, do some reps, see how he was doing standing neutral grip, and I was really, really impressed. Really impressed with Rios, man. Like he's
good to know.
Really another really coachable kid, and he's battled through injuries. He's kind of been through a lot, but he's very solid in the mind, which is so key for these rule changes. And
oh yeah,
like the way they're putting the ball down and everything with the COVID precautions. You got to have a really, really strong mental game to fight through all that stuff that you didn't really have to worry about before.
Yeah.
Or you finally figured it out before. Now they change it
again. That's for another episode. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the mental game, I was talking to a sports psychologist who was asking me how much of face-offs is mental. And I said, well, you got to look at how much of the time that we're on the sideline thinking about face-offs compared to how much are we taking them. So I would say the mental game is 90% of what we do. Right. Not only from our own technique, but studying our opponent and the one-on-one factor of it, the crowd staring at you. What's the first person that gets thrown under the bus if you start off, if you start off 0 for 3 and your team goes down early, it's all your fault. If you battle back and you kill yourself the rest of the game and you end up at 49%, no one's there to shake your hand. It's a very lonely place. But then this year for a 20-year-old kid is the easiest year in history to have excuses and palms up, right? COVID, I haven't gotten to practice. They changed the rules on me. Now the refs decided the day of the season starting that they're going to officiate the face-off in a completely weird way. You're right. I think if you're mentally solid, and coming from you, that's a very high compliment. So we'll be looking out for Rios. If you're solid mentally and you're working on being analytical rather than emotional, I feel like those are the guys that are going to rise to the top this year.
Yeah, no question, man, no question. And then, two, T. Wash and Luke Williams, they're great as well. I don't know their game as well as I know Luke's, just from Luke Rios, from working with them. But from what I heard, I'm not sure which one. I know one of them is throwing in a rake. Luke didn't say which one, but he was saying that he was like, yeah, like I struggle with that a little bit in practice, going against some of the guys. So it sounds like Luke's a pretty top rail dominant guy. Obviously, I mean, I helped him for a while, so so I can understand. So he was asking about the rake and things like that. So it sounds like they got some great guys in T. Wash and Luke Williams as well that can look.
Yeah, I mean, that's a Luke Williams coming from, I mean, Ben's a great kid. So obviously Luke is going to be a hardworking blue collar guy too. T. Wash is a great kid to be around. His energy is awesome. So it's good here, having a kid come back and say, yeah, I'm struggling with this move, which is completely different than what I do. Your team's already off to a good start because now you kind of got a thunder and lightning thing going, which is good. When we look at St. John's is going to be the enigma right now. They have Uva and Fitzpatrick. They're struggling to find a one guy identity. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch them last year when the season kicked off. I haven't seen anybody come in and train with SNG, so I don't know what to expect. But if you're St. John's in this conference, I mean, you know what I'm kind of shocked still is it's 2021 and we still haven't seen LSN come out and just, I'm going to crush this position, right? Every time the rule changes, you and I are sitting there going, okay, now it's easier. 2 years later, you're like, oh, now it's even easier. Right. And now everyone's standing. It's like, what are you doing? I feel like St. John's, they have some studs, on that long poles on that roster. I feel like this would be the team that would kind of have a guy out there ready to roll. What do you think?
No, I agree. And I mean, from my recollection, every time we played them, they had a pole that was mean. That gave me a couple across the wrist every time. Not coming in from a wing, not on the face-off X. And
yeah.
No, I agree, man. What was that guy's name that played for Georgetown? It was maybe like 2013.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I cannot believe that his name is escaping me right now. We're going to get a lot of comments about who it was. He was a legit stud too. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. You know what the problem is? My brain has a certain amount of hard drive, and because I know every face-off man from fifth grade up in this country, I run out of space.
Right.
I'm sure somebody help us out in the comments because
Yeah.
there was definitely a stud Georgetown LSM, and that's why I thought when he was doing his thing, I was like, here we go, here it comes.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing a lot of guys that want to come out and do it. I think the misconception that you have to have a face-off head is what slows guys up. You don't. For any LSMs watching this, if you have an STX Hammer or an ECD Mirage, come on out. I'll show you exactly how to crush people. Because I think with the quick rake, when you have a really stiff, wide head, all of these face-off heads are kind of soft. So it gets stuck right on the sidewall and you pull the whole dude down the sideline. If anybody wants to be an All-American LSM face-off guy, call Trevor and I, and we'll hook it up. Okay.
That's no question, man. Like it's like the stiff head like adds to it. It adds.
Yeah. You could pull a dude 3 feet down the line if he gets caught up on that. One of the things that always kind of drives me nuts, I've seen, we've seen teams year after year. They throw an LSM out there. We're not sure why though, right? Like you could tell the kid's down there. Maybe he's moto grip. Maybe he's on a knee. Maybe he looks like he just got dropped off at practice with a Dick's Sporting Goods strong stick and he's never played lacrosse before. Like he looks so uncomfortable. You put an LSM out there against Trevor Baptiste, who's hot, and on the whistle, they stand up and drop step, and you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you're going to put an LSM out there, coaches, it's not as easy as just tie him up, right? That's not a thing. But if you know how to face off with the LSM and he's experienced in practice at stifling people with, the shovel counter or raking and pulling them down the line, you have something there. And I wish more coaches would do that.
100%, yeah, and even if it's to the point that they haven't mastered a rake yet or going for the ball, the drop step is the last thing you want to do. And I think it's funny that you said like when they go down, whenever a pull would go down against me, and all the PLL pulls don't listen to this part, but I can tell what you're gonna do before you do it. Like how you're standing, I can tell if you're gonna drop step. I can tell if you're gonna step to the right.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pull to the left, so I can see what you're doing.
Yeah,
so
you see them kind of like leaning into the whistle,
like they're falling forward. Sometimes they line up a certain way, they do something completely different, and I'm like, whoa, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
That happens, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to tell. But I think it like extremely similar to defense, right? Like say you can't get a shot on that rake or you're just not there yet. It's all about funneling somebody to an area for you to either take that ball back, make it a tough ground ball, just like how you would on the defensive field. You're either funneling guys down the alley or to the middle to send them to help, tell them to the slide, make it tough for them, cause a turnover. Same thing on the faceoff X. And and you got a longer stick, so you're in a good spot.
I agree. Okay, so let's wrap up here. I don't know if you ever heard of this team, Denver University. So we watched Denver against Utah. Give me a little walkthrough of stuff that you saw out on the field that you think could be a systemic issue, or also could be like, okay, this is our first day with these rules and this kind of officiating.
Yeah. So I guess just to start out, like it was just exciting to see guys playing.
Yeah, tell me about it.
NCAA lacrosse that weekend, and I think there was like a mixture of things going on. I think one, you got new rules, new officiating with COVID protocols, and there's the atmosphere isn't the same. You don't got everybody on the sideline. There's definitely a lot of pressures and things going on there. So things definitely, it didn't feel like the normal PDB out there, but although it was great to have them out there. And off of that, I think they tried to handle it the best way that they could. And it opened up a great learning experience for everybody at the game, or all the face-off guys involved. I think when you talk about a guy like Alec, who was so dominant as a freshman and is such a dominant stature, like he's strong and he can move well and he really had the knee down face off figured out. I think as a sophomore now and not getting a full year under his belt, he didn't have the mindset to think, okay, like I got to think about this a little bit differently. I think I should go in kind of with the same mindset that I went in with last year, because that worked really well for me, and it worked great for him, and I don't think he should change everything about the mindset, but I think a lot of times he was used to having a little bit more time with the ball clamped, not being used to having somebody counter him extremely fast because they're on their feet. And then credit to Utah, who they did an amazing job countering and realized, like, whether it was Alec or Brett, the clamp, we might not get the clamp this time, and they had they had a really great timing of when to throw their counter. They would try to make contact, and then Alec dropped his knee back, which he was used to doing from, knee down and having so much success doing that in the past, that they just stood right up right from then. And it made a lot of the ground balls tough. And they came up with a lot of extra possessions because they battled, and Denver's, you talk about guys like Danny Logan, Malik on the wing, they got speed on the wing too, so they made it extremely tough. And it was great battle to watch.
Yeah, I think when you look at the way this is going right now, the one thing is, I know the referees these are new rules, and the referees have to figure out the new rules. I feel like sometimes though, man, like it's like a Happy Gilmore situation. Like the ref is like standing there and he's like, nah, they seem pretty straight up. It's like, no, you just have one shoe on. Because like, how can I get, like, if you're trying to catch up with rules, but how can you not tell plastic's perpendicular or not? How can you not tell if hands are on the line? We have, we can go on a soapbox about that forever, but I think when you look at guys looking at S&G, I think you hit the nail on the head that people are still looking at it as a knee down face off. And, I told kids, look, this is going to suck, but for everything we taught you the last 8 years, throw it out, starting over again. What you did yesterday means nothing. Everything you have to look at now, and what Utah was doing a good job, because even though, look, a lot of these face-offs are going to look a little ugly this year, because you have some guys that have gotten formal training on it and are going to look really good. And then you have some other guys out there that are either were taught incorrectly or they're going on theory, right? Like, all right, so I did this before, so now I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to rotate around. And against other guys that are kind of making that mistake, you're going to get a little bit of a 50-50 battle. You walk into a dude who's been formally trained this year, and it's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, look at what Mercer did at the face-off stripe. Yeah. Ashton Wood went 18 for 19. He's like, what rule change, right? Because he's just coming straight in. So I think what Utah did a good job of is on impact, right hands meet. You're right. They were the first ones to react. And people at home, if you're watching this, the first guy to react after impact now is going to win every time. So, and that they were either ripping it out after impact, because you're right. You can get that timing down, right? If I'm going against you and I'm realizing right on impact, you're kicking your foot back, I'm going to start to time it up where I come in and just as the foot comes out, I rip. The ball will come out every time. Or at the very least, I pulled you right in front of me, reverse shove, right? And Utah did a great job. The one thing that is interesting, and we're going to see it probably again this week, is teams are out there on the wings going, it looks like one of those like little kid soccer games, right? There's just an immediate, the balls are there now. Get it. The ball got kicked over there. There didn't seem to be like a very unified plan because I guess they're not sure what they're going to see out there.
Right. Yeah. And I think there was definitely a feeling out process, like you said, where it's like, if I'm going into a face-off stand neutral grip and I'm really new to it and I'm not really sure what the other guy's going to do.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, okay, like, hey, it's a lot of times you can convey that to your wing guys that you're not really sure. And unfortunately, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to just stick to the plan and let's just either win by 100 by this or lose by 5 and then reevaluate,
Yeah.
So, so I think, it was something like, hang over here. If the ball goes this way, just be ready to go over there. But I'm going to try to throw it here. But if I don't, just make sure that the league's got the other side. And that's just like how it looked, So, and I think all that just comes with practice. I think
you're right.
haven't had the chance to practice.
And also, like you said, there's only going to be 4 teams this weekend that have film on who they're playing, right? Like you're going into this game, like people, I heard the announcers like, oh, Stathakis is kind of having, struggling out there. Like, what do you expect, man? Nobody knows what's going on. He didn't have film to study. Everyone got a memo from Mr. Abbott morning of, hey guys, by the way, we're just going to change the way we officiate this. Right. And then after all of this talk all summer about how it's all about making sure the face-off is faster and we're not allowing rotations, they allowed all of it. So
really, who knows? Like, I don't know how you like make that a ruling when you say, obviously, we're saying if you're going to stand neutral grip, it's in your best interest to not rotate, and to not try to approach the face off like a knee down face off. There's going to be some guys that get away with it, there's going to be some guys that get away with it. And there's going to be 2 guys that maybe wouldn't get away with it, but when they go against each other, they're not going to learn anything from it. It's just going to force that habit in even more, Yeah. So it's almost like just the same thing with officiating with leaning and not leaning, right? Like if both guys lean, it's like, okay, everybody's leaning. But if one guy goes straight and the other guy leans, you should give the ball to the guy who went down straight,
Yeah.
You force everybody to do it the right way, but if you let it go once, or you don't get burned by it once, then you're thinking, I can do this forever,
Yeah. And that's the problem. And we can talk about that another time as far as the officiating stuff goes. But I think when you look at Denver, obviously one elephant in the room, reports that TD is coming over. We don't know if he is or is not, if he can do that. I think it would be great for lacrosse if he can get out there and play. It's kind of a bummer, statistically speaking. The winningest faceoff guy hasn't gotten the send-off he deserves. And I would like for him to be able to finish his career the right way. So, him coming over there, that does create now a situation where everyone, oh, he's coming over to Denver. And I was like, well, don't write up the depth chart yet. We haven't seen what this looks like. But what do you think? Forget about X's and O's. What do you think TD brings if he comes over?
I think obviously, you talk about TD and the career that he's had. I'm right with you, and going against him and, battling for, the top spots here and there all the time. It's been fun. And I completely agree that it would be a shame if he didn't get to play his senior season. And it stinks the worlds that we live in right now and the pandemic is making that a possibility. But I think him coming to Denver, he brings a lot, and not only from just his skill on the field, obviously nobody's seen anybody do standing neutral grip except from this weekend, so taking all that stuff aside, you look at guys like Alec and Brett, you're going against TD every day in practice. Like that's like that. I mean, if you don't want that, I don't know what you want,
right?
You're looking at the top face-off guy in college lacrosse right now, and you get to go against him Monday through Friday every day. Like you are gonna get better. So and you talk about, like it's gonna be a weird transfer. It's a lot of different things that are going into this whole transfer thing that are so unorthodox and different because this has never happened before. So if it does happen, there's a chance he might not be there for the first few games, and that puts you in a great position to play, get that experience. You still get to play some of this year. And when he comes in, you get to battle for your spot again. That's against the best. Like that's sick. I mean, if I could do another year, I'd do it right now.
Right. Right. And that's, especially with these rules, even my old ass could do it. The thing that's funny is you and I talk about competition all the time. And I do a lot of these talks with coaches or parents or whatever. And people ask me all the time, like, what makes Trevor? Like what made you? Like what makes TD? And it's a love for competition. Like not a like you and I are very similar, and like I don't need to hate you to work really hard against you. I just love to battle because it tests me where I'm at. And it's impossible to be a face-off man now. That look, let's be honest, the FOA changed everything, right? In 2012, we came through and it went from, this many elite level face-off guys, this many colleges, to now like this whole room's filled with elite level face-off guys, and there's still this many colleges.
Right.
So all divisions have gotten way better. If you are somebody who gets upset because your school brings in a guy the year before you or after you or a transfer who's really good, you're at the wrong position, man. Like this position is about that. It's everything about iron, ironing, sharpening iron. And I think if I'm Stathicus, I'm sitting here going, okay, TD comes over. That takes a little bit of pressure off me, right? I was over 60% as a freshman. Everyone expects me to be this, second coming. Now I can kind of compete. I can get better. TD he may play, he may not, but either way, it can't hurt. And let's be honest, you and I love TD. Like I like TD a lot. We've had great conversations with TD. I can tell you right now, I've never had anybody who's played with him or that he's played for have one negative thing to say about him. He's a good teammate, he's a good player, works his ass off. So it can't be a negative to have him come on board.
Right. Only positives for sure. And
yeah.
And that's about from on the field to off the field, his experience, it's just going to be a big spark for Denver, and I'm excited for it, obviously.
But yeah, obviously, it's a good time to be a Pio.
Exactly.
So let's wrap up the hard part. Give me two guys you think could, two names that could end up being all conference in the Big East.
And we're leaving TV out of this one.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, let's go with people we know for a fact of playing.
I mean, I'm going to go with Alec. I mean, Alex, I put him up there. I'm going to say Luke Rios.
Okay. You heard it here first. Okay, Luke Rios. You know what? I'm looking at this roster. Man, I like Kopecky. I think Kopecky could shock some people this year. I think he come and make a difference for Villanova. So I'm gonna drop him. Okay, Kopecky, and I'm gonna double up with Rios. If he's been working with Trev, there's only two guys confirmed that have been practicing SNG with us this offseason, and those are the two guys. So those are the guys I'm gonna go with. All right, awesome. Yeah, so that's our wrap up with Big East. We're going to go over the CAA, and we're also going to be hitting the MAC with Peyton Smith coming up in the next couple of days. So, Trev, thanks a lot for joining me, man. You got anything to say to the peeps?
Appreciate you guys watching. Once again, we'll check back. Please throw the Georgetown LSF face-off guy in the comments.
Yes. My bad for forgetting that, dog. And then also make sure you guys subscribe so you're first to hear about the new videos coming out. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
All right. See you guys.